Okay. Good evening, everybody. Welcome. Thank you for coming and joining us this evening on this series that's been a wonderful career exploration series. Tonight, we're actually doing something a little different. Part of our program, we have a financial counselor on staff that's available to share with you important information to help you to make sure that during this crisis time, you stay safe with your finances. So I'm going to be welcoming Mark Alpert, who is the financial counselor with NILAG, and tonight he's going to be sharing with us during this crazy time of COVID-19 all of the different tools that are available to you out there during this time, whether it has to do with credit, debt relief, whether it has to do with applying for unemployment, all of the different tools that the country and the government has made available. Mark is very familiar with, and he's going to walk us through them. And in fact, if you're interested, you could reach out to us and we could put you in touch with Mark for free one-on-one counseling. Before we do that, of course, let me just remind you, the JCC Workforce Program is here year-round in the community to help you with job placement, with resume writing, with interview prep, and career counseling. So if any of you are looking for these services, they're free of charge and they're here every day of the year. Reach out to us, workforce@jccgci.org, workforce@jccgci.org. And the way that our workshops always work is there'll be a presentation. Following the presentation, there'll be Q&A. For those of you that would like to log in to post questions directly, again, email me, workforce@jccgci.org. I'll give you a login, or you could just send me your questions by email and I'll pose them to Mark at the end of the presentation. So Mark, thank you very much for, I know this is a late hour, and thank you very much for accommodating us, and the floor is yours.
It says you've disabled participants.
Okay, sorry. Yes, I am going to make you the co-host right now. One second, there's two of you here. There's two.
No, there's just, no, really? Huh, that's weird.
Yeah, okay. I'll make you say, let me know if this works now. Are you able to share your screen?
No.
Okay, so 1 second, let me try.
There's two of you too.
Well, I'm logged into two computers because I'm streaming. Sure. How about now?
Okay, let's see now.
Okay, try now. Try to share your screen now.
This was, yeah, it's going to stop yours. Okay, we got it.
That's fine. Yeah, go ahead, take over.
Okay. Okay. So just a disclaimer, this is financial and educational material. Although NILAG is a legal firm, that we do not offer official legal or tax advice in a financial webinar. The other thing is that, the laws change every day. Or the COVID relief things change every day. The New York State unemployment site changes every day. Everything is current as of today. It may not be current as of tomorrow, but there's a resource slide at the end, and I think the rabbi can email you the slides if you want them. Just contact him. So these are some of the topics we're going to discuss tonight, and I'm going to get right into it because it's late. We'll start with the stimulus checks that hopefully a lot of you have received already. It's $1,200 for a single person, $2,400 joint, plus $500 for each qualifying child. And there are income limits above which these benefits begin to phase out, totally phasing out for a single filer of $99,000, a joint filer of $198,000. And to get the $500, it must be a qualifying child of age 16 or under. And as I said, hopefully many of you have already gotten these checks. They were directly deposited. If you, in a couple cases, one would be if you filed 2018 or 2019 taxes, they would use that information. If you had your bank account on that tax filing, it would have been should have been deposited directly into your bank account. Also, if your only income is Social Security, it would have been deposited again into the same bank account where your Social Security is. If you did not have that information on your tax statement, or if you did not file, for example, the checks would be sent by mail, and that's on a staggered basis, just started, and that will continue through September 2020. So we really don't know exactly when everybody will get them. If you did not have to file taxes in 2018 or 2019, then you should go into the irs.gov portal. There will be a non-filer portal that you can use to provide information to get your stimulus check. That's for, again, people who did not have to file, not including people whose only income is Social Security, because they would have gotten it directly into where the Social Security came. There was a portal where if you needed to, let's say you did file, but
Mark.
you didn't have your bank. Yeah.
Mark.
Yep.
Oh, figure.
Hello? Rabbi, can you hear me?
Sorry, you're fine. You're fine. Sorry.
Okay. So there was a portal where you could have put that information in. Is that portal, I believe, is now closed. Therefore, what you should recognize, though, is that this is really a 2020 tax refund. They're giving it out early based upon the 2018 and 2019 tax returns. So if you didn't get it and you deserve it, you should get it in 2020 when you fill out the tax return. And this is particularly true for people with dependents, because it was very difficult to add those dependents into the portal when it was open. And if you had a new baby, for example, in the last year or so, their Social Security number would not have been in the tax return that you filed, and therefore you're not going to get the $500 for that person, but you will get it in 2020 when you file your taxes for 2020. So that's sort of the stimulus check. We're going to move quickly into unemployment benefits and the CARES Act. This is probably where we're getting by far the most of our inquiries from clients on. So it begins with the New York. There's basically two programs. There's the New York State Unemployment Program, and there's the new Pandemic Federal Unemployment Act. So we're going to start with New York State. And basically, New York State requires a work history. You must have worked in the last 4 to 6 quarters. You must have earned a minimum amount in those quarters. You would not qualify if you were self-employed or a 1099 worker. It gave you 26 weeks of benefits, the maximum being $504 a week, the average about $250. New York State has one of the poorest unemployment programs in the area. Fortunately, there is a federal expansion of any state, and New York State benefits as well. Here are the key points of the federal expansion. You can qualify for benefits now for 39 weeks, so 13 weeks on top of New York State's 26 weeks. It applies to self-employed contract workers, 1099, almost anybody who's been affected by COVID. It includes a weekly benefit of up to 39 weeks of payments. So in other words, if you don't qualify for the New York State average of $250, you could still get the federal average of $250 for 39 weeks. You can't get both, by the way, you get one or the other. And then, most importantly, it supplements both the New York State or the federal weekly benefit with a $600 additional flat amount weekly through July 31st of 2020. So in New York State, if you got the maximum of $504, you would get another $600. So you'd get $1,100 per week through July 31st, 2020. And that's if they don't extend the $600, then you would get $504 per week for the remainder of the period of time, but hopefully they will extend the $600. Okay, so that's a lot of money. As I said, you don't go into, you don't have to apply separately for pandemic. What happens is you have to apply through the New York State unemployment for the New York State unemployment benefits, and that will screen you to see whether you qualify for New York State or the pandemic unemployment assistance. Due to unprecedented volume, I believe that there are almost 2 million filers right now in New York State, and I think the backlog may be at least 500,000, if not more. So they're asking everybody to file online if at possible. It's really all you have to do is go to the Department of Labor in New York. You could Google that, but I've given you the website here. Filing your first claims, and then you're going to create an ID and begin your application. So doing it online is strongly encouraged. If you have to do it by phone, they do have a phone system that's set up. I've given you the number here, 888-209-8124. But if you do it by phone, you can only call based upon the first letter of your last name, Mondays through Wednesdays. I think you could do it otherwise, but that's what they're telling people to do, to try to queue people up in the right way. But again, try to do it online if you can. As I said, so once you start with the New York State, applying for New York State unemployment insurance, and let's say that you don't have a work history, you didn't work in the last 4 to 6 quarters, you didn't earn enough money. Let's say that you're a 1099 worker or self-employed. You will be denied New York State benefits, and you will be asked to fill out a pandemic unemployment assistance application. Okay. And so so in other words, you always have to start with New York State. And then even if you're denied, don't be discouraged. Hopefully that you will be kicked into the pandemic unemployment assistance application. Almost in all cases, if you are filing for if you're getting pandemic unemployment assistance, at the end of your filling out of your application, you will be given a confirmation number, and it will say to expect a phone call within 72 hours. And that's basically to answer, particularly for self-employed people, to answer some questions that they don't have on the New York State application itself. So you have to be available to expect that call within 72 hours. I'll talk about that in a second. So as I said, you're not going to get both New York State and the weekly pandemic. You're going to get one or the other, plus, in both cases, $600 per week through July 30th. The expanded benefits, well, the big ones I've already mentioned. The expanded benefits are for self-employed people and 1099 workers who do not qualify for New York State unemployment benefits, but it also includes people who almost in any way, shape, or form have lost their job or lost income due to the COVID-19 crisis. And that could even be because you had to leave work because you had to care for somebody who was diagnosed with COVID-19. So in other words, in New York State, they're going to say, you can't have quit your job and get New York State benefits. But under pandemic, if you had to quit your job to care for somebody diagnosed with COVID-19, you could get the pandemic unemployment insurance. The only general category of employee not eligible is if you're able to telework and are being paid for the telework, or if you're receiving paid sick leave from your employer. Another very, very critical point is you must certify weekly. Okay, every week you have to recertify your claim. And when you first fill out your form, your application is going to be pending, but you still must recertify your claim every week. And this is so that you will get your benefits starting from the date that you lost your employment. Doesn't matter if it was March, it could go back that far. And that you won't miss any weeks of payment. So you still have to certify online or by phone every week. During this process, you will be asked if you were employed for any part of the week. and whether you've met all other conditions. And the big condition is that you have to say you are ready, willing, and able to work. Okay, just say yes. And I should mention that in New York State, if you're qualified for New York State benefits and you work part-time, you will have a deduction out of your weekly benefit, but it extends the total number of weeks that you can collect benefits. So ultimately, you will get that money back. All right. If you are denied benefits, then you will receive a letter in the mail telling you that your benefits are denied, and you have to go to a hearing. Those hearings, of course, have been canceled, but they are expected to start up again on May 28th remotely, although we expect that there is also a serious backlog. And then you will have a chance to explain, your situation and why you believe, you are entitled. You answered the form wrong or something like that. Okay, and you should get your benefits back to the date that you were unemployed. Now, common causes for problems and delays in the application itself. Well, first of all, as I already said, you must check that you are ready and available for work. A lot of people may not want to go to work for what they don't want, and nobody's saying that you have to do anything dangerous, but you say that you have to. If you say I'm not ready, willing, and able, you're going to have a problem. Okay, so you say yes, I'm ready, willing, and able, and you do that when you certify, and you do that when you apply. You must be reachable for the callback. As I said, almost every person who's going to file for unemployment is going to get at the end of their application a confirmation number and a notice that you will be contacted within 72 hours by phone. So you've got to give them a cell phone number or a home phone number where you can be reached. You got to be by the phone. So it's better to give a cell phone number so you can take it with you. You have to unblock all numbers because the number they call you will show up as a private number. You're not going to know it isn't a robocaller. So you're going to have to answer all those calls. Okay, and they'll probably ask you for your confirmation number, or just to double check, verify you are who you are. I said you have to recertify weekly, even if your application is pending. And chances are they will not if there's an issue or something like that, let's say after the phone call, they're not going to send you an email. In most cases, you're going to have a secure message center on your login. When you log in, you're going to see on your screen that there's a secure message center, and that's how they will try to contact you. Lately, I would say that for people applying, 4 weeks ago, they are starting to get their benefits now. So I would say a 4-week delay is common. The system was really messed up in March and April, and those people who applied early might have waited longer. The system's a little bit better now, but I would still expect about a 4-week delay before your payments will start. If you've waited longer than 4 weeks, what can you do? There's really not a lot of recourse. You can send a secured message via the message center in your account online. There is a claimant's advocate number because you're not going to get through to the New York State unemployment number. So there is a special New York State claimant's advocate number, also an email where you can try to contact. But I would say by far, the people that I've talked to have really had issues. They've had the best response by contacting their local representative. And I don't know who that is in your community. You can look at, you may, but otherwise you can look it up online and find out who to contact. And honestly, that's really how I've seen people get the best response of all. Okay, so moving on to other issues, let's talk about rent and more. Let's say you're having, you're not receiving your unemployment yet, your income's down, you're having trouble with your rent and mortgage. So let's talk about that a little bit, okay? But then the next few things I'm going to talk about, they're not nearly as you know, as carved into stone as the stimulus checks and the unemployment benefits. Okay. So your rent is still due on your apartment or your house, regardless of COVID-19. All that has happened is that New York State has suspended evictions until August 20th. In New York City, there's all evictions are indefinitely suspended. I don't know if they're going to, you know, align with New York State, but that just means you owe the rent. Okay. So if your rent is $2,000 a month and you don't pay, you know, until August, you know, so you have March, let's say you have April, May, June, July, that's 4 months, you're going to be $8,000 arrears in rent. And then the courts start opening up and the landlord can begin the eviction process, and he may want his $8,000. There's been no regulations or rules passed in New York State on how renters are going to be able to deal with those arrears if they arise. So you need to try to make your payments if you can. If you cannot make payments, your rent will accrue, as I said, with possible fees. It is not being suspended or forgiven. Your landlord just can't begin eviction proceedings for the time being. So the best thing to do, of course, is to call the landlord, explain the situation, and I suggest that you have some plan in mind. You know, my rent is $2,000. I can give you $1,000 per month now, and I'll make up the $4,000 I owe over the next 12 months. Would that be okay with you? Okay, that's really about all that you can really, you know, that's probably the best approach to take. Mortgages, again, your mortgage payment is still due regardless of COVID-19. There is a little bit more relief here if your mortgage happens to be owned by one of the government agencies. Excuse me, those agencies are Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, and the FHA. If it's owned by the federal, because then your loan is owned basically by the federal government. So the federal government has said that you have the right to request up to 180 days of forbearance, not making payments. They will probably ask you to make your insurance and tax payments regardless, okay, because they really can't control that. But you would have 180 days forbearance of principal and interest. The interest will accrue, okay? And after 6 months, you can request an additional 180 days with no fees or penalties. So conceivably, you could get 6 to 12 months of relief of not having to pay principal and interest. But again, let's say your mortgage is $3,000 a month and you don't pay for 6 months. They haven't said how you're going to be required to make up that $18,000. Because they're government agencies, we expect that they will give you several options, but you should talk to the servicer, you know, when you have to request the forbearance through your servicer. And you need to talk to them about what options might be available to you. Hopefully they'll let you add it to the balance of the mortgage that you owe so that you won't have to make up the difference. You won't have to make up that, you know, that money, that $18,000 over a 6-month or 1-year period of time. But again, nothing has been determined with that. You can find out if your loan is owned by Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac by going to their websites. They have a tab for loan lookup, it's called, loan lookup. And you put in some information, including the last 4 digits of your social security number, and it will either say Fannie Mae does not own your loan or Fannie Mae owns your loan. But then you still must, if Fannie Mae owns your loan, you still must call the servicer, the entity that you send your check to request forbearance. In all other cases, and frankly, mostly that's New York State, because most mortgages in New York State are probably privately owned mortgages. In other words, they did not qualify for government agency ownership. Those are really not covered by the CARES Act in any way, shape, or form. All you can do is call your servicer, tell them about your hardship, and ask for some type of deferment, but make sure you understand how the arrears will be required to be made up at the end of any forbearance period of time. So again, as I said, talk to your landlord or mortgage servicer, explain the situation, ask for a temporary hardship. Have in mind your own plan of how you're going to make arrears that you can discuss with them. Be realistic on the affordability if this thing drags on. And the most important, one of the most important points is that, I can't tell you that a day does not go by where I'm not talking to somebody who is, let's say, I can't make my mortgage payment because it's $3,000, but I'm paying my credit cards $500 a month because I'm worried about my credit score. Okay? Housing takes priority over credit card payments. A credit card company cannot foreclose on your home. They cannot evict you from your apartment. Okay? Housing takes priority. Utilities, just quickly, again, really nothing here. Governor Cuomo has issued an executive order directing the New York State Department of Public Service to stop shutoffs during COVID-19 crisis. So if you don't pay the bill, your service won't be shut off until the governor decides that this is over. And again, they're not paying your bill, they're not forgiving your bill, so you're going to have 3, 4, 5 months of past utility bills due, and it's really up to you and the utility to decide how that arrears will be paid up once the governor lifts this stay. And at that point, you could be at risk of utility shutoff. So you want to try to pay your utility bills if you can. But if you can't, at least take some comfort to know that it won't be shut off until Governor Cuomo says so. And then on credit cards, there's really no help, no federal help, no state help with respect to if you can't pay your credit cards. This is where you really have to get into the budgeting aspect. Make sure, see where you can cut, what expenses you can cut if you want to, continue to keep your credit cards open and make payments. I said there really wasn't any state help. Governor Cuomo did order that the New York State Department of Financial Services requires that banks that they regulate must make accommodation. They really never described what that was, but it really doesn't matter because almost no card issuers are state regulated. Okay, Chase, Citi, Bank America, American Express, Discover, Capital One, Wells Fargo, those are not regulated by the New York State Department of Financial Services. So it really has no teeth whatsoever. If you're affected by COVID hardship, call the bank up and tell them that you just can't make the payments anymore. I don't want to default, but can you reduce my interest rate to 0 for 3 to 6 months? Can I skip payments for a couple months? Explain the situation. Many banks are waiving fees and offering some type of deferment of payments. But again, you need to ask for how long it will last, how you're expected to make up the payment. And also, you should also ask, how are they going to report it to the credit agency? Because they could report it as delinquent payments. And of course, that would affect your credit score as well. That doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. You should take the deferment if you need it, but you should understand that how it's going to be recorded on your credit report. Federal student loans. I'm not going to go too much into this, but there has been a suspension of principal and interest payments on all federally owned student loans. So those would primarily be the direct education loans and some of the older FFEL loans, the federal family education loans that the government was making over 10 years ago. So interest will be waived. They're going to give you like 6 months where you don't have to make payments, and I'm sorry, principal payments for 60 days, not 6 months. The principal isn't forgiven, but the interest won't accrue. that, again, that's only for the loans that are owned by the government. If it's a private student loan, the government has nothing to do with it, and all you can do is call your servicer and ask for help. I'm not going to spend too much time on this. If you have any questions, you can get in touch with me, because I don't think a lot of people have the federal student loans. And finally, I'm just including a resource slide. As I said, everything is changing very, very rapidly. What I say today could be obsolete tomorrow. Okay, so keep up to date. I've given you also the Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac lookup if you want to look up your mortgages here. And Rabbi, if there are a few questions, I know it's late, but I'll take a few.
Okay, so first of all, thank you. Very, very comprehensive and covered so much in such a short amount of time. Thank you for accommodating. So again, for those of you that are watching this, if you'd like to send a question for me to post to Mark, my email address, workforce@jccgci.org, workforce@jccgci.org, and we'll post it to you. So actually a question came in. Someone wanted to know if it's now qualification for food stamps or other of these types of food assistance programs is any easier now? Are there any changes to how that works?
The answer is I don't know. I don't really. I'm not really involved in an application for food stamps, so I don't want to. So I don't know, and I don't want to say.
But bottom line, if somebody is laid off and they're getting unemployment, can they still qualify for food stamps, or does the unemployment interfere with that?
It couldn't. I believe it could. Well, I don't know about the New York State unemployment. The federal unemployment will be counted for everything except Medicaid and CHIPS, child health care. So yes, you do have to. So you do have to be aware that receiving income could affect some of your benefits, and you have to. And it's you want to explore that if that what the value is of one the trade-off. Yeah.
Understood. But it's not. Is it reportable income? That if there was a federal $600, is that something you have to report at the end of the year on your tax return?
Yes. Not the stimulus check, but the unemployment benefits are included in taxable income at the end of the year. You'll get a 1099-G, I believe it's called, but I'm not positive.
Okay.
Yes, I am.
Another question. Someone was asking that they heard with regards to filing taxes this year, they delayed it, or is there some sort of?
Yeah. So 2019 taxes, obviously the original tax date was April 15th. That has been pushed off to July 15th. Mm-hmm. The only reason why you would delay would be if you owed taxes, you don't want to pay them right away. There's no penalty or interest. But if you're expecting a refund of any type, you would definitely want to file as soon as possible.
Okay. Somebody just messaged me that this is something maybe you should be aware of. There is an organization called the Hebrew Free Loan Society, and they are actually now they developed a special COVID loan program where people that are under distress, they could qualify for.
I know a little bit about that, but yeah, it's a great organization. Hebrew Free Loan Society, HFLS.org. And they make interest-free loans for a variety of reasons. They have a number of programs, including paying medical bills. Well, they don't pay the bill. Lending money to pay off medical bills, lending money for house repairs, lending money for educational, even small business, and they don't charge interest. They're interest-free loans. So it's a good option, for example, to use to pay off credit card debt that's charging 20%. The special COVID program is that you do not have to be, so you have to, typically what you're going to have to do is you're going to begin paying the principal back only the principal back on a monthly basis for approximately 4 years. What they're doing under the COVID program is they're letting you skip the first 2 months of payments on the COVID loan as well. The one obstacle that we've seen is that you do need at least one and possibly two co-signers for the HFL loan, and they can't be a member of your household.
What I heard, right, what I heard was that for up to 5,000, one co-signer, and 7,500 is two co-signers. In general, for
Yeah.
most of their loan, two co-signers are not family members and also not clergy.
Right.
So,
Fortunately for you. Yeah.
Yes,
So
okay.
you have a co-signer, yeah. But it's a great
Okay, great.
organization, and they have they're very flexible. They're gonna lean over backwards to help you get the loan. Yeah.
yes, we've had experience with them, and they're wonderful, and they're really looking to help. So
Yeah.
if it's something to consider, no question about it. Okay, great. So this was wonderful. I want to thank you again. For those of you watching this, please know that we could put you in touch with Mark directly if you want to speak to him to get specific advice for your situation. He can spend the time, and it's a total free of charge service, doesn't cost a penny, special service. So please, if you're watching this and you want to speak to Mark, please reach out to us, workforcejccgci.org. Again, workforcejccgci.org. We will put you in touch with him. And, under these tough circumstances that we find right now, everyone should try to maximize whatever opportunities they have so that you don't fall into a deep hole. And we're praying, God willing, it should be very soon. Things should open up again, and then we should get back to normal. And this should be something in the past. So, Mark, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Pleasure having you, and everyone, stay tuned. Yes, we have one more. Just for those of you watching this series, there's one more week of this series continuing next week. Next week, Sunday night, we're going to be exploring the career of court reporter, and more coming. So stay tuned. Have a good night, and all the best. Thank you, Mark.